Hi, this is Brendan Dillon from Chorus One. Chorus One run validators on the Cosmos network and on the Loom network, and we're about to launch a new validator on the Terra network. So Terra is a new network. It's going to launch on April 23rd. So this Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, the Terra network will go live. So what is Terra? Terra is a stablecoin. But it's a stablecoin with a difference. It's one with a very powerful go-to-market strategy. It's built by one of the leading e-commerce entrepreneurs in Korea, and they have put together a group of leading e-commerce players across Southeast Asia to take this stablecoin out to market. So it's essentially it's a stablecoin that will evolve into a global payments network. So today we're going to speak with Do Kwon. Do Kwon is the founder, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the team, about what Terra are doing, talk about the mechanisms of the stablecoin, but then really get into the go-to-market, like what's their plans to take this out and how is that going to work. We talk a little bit about why they built this on top of the Cosmos SDK. So why are they using Tendermint and what that gives them, and then we'll talk a little bit about the plans for the mainnet launch. So right now there's a testnet, an adversarial testnet, but like I said, on Tuesday night, then the testnet, the mainnet will go live. So yeah, let's just jump straight in, and here's Do Kwon. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm here with Do Kwon from Terra. Terra are a stablecoin. So Do, do you want to just introduce yourself and the team there and tell us a little bit about what you guys are working on?
Yeah, so hi, everybody. My name is Do. I am a co-founder at Terra Money. So we're a stablecoin project that focuses on payments distribution in Southeast and East Asia. So our goal is to create a set of cryptocurrencies that are stable against a series of fiat currencies in the region, and we expect this to be widely used in e-commerce and retail payments to, we think, quite a sizable volume. Most of the team is based in Seoul, so it's pretty exciting times.
Okay, cool. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the team, because I guess you've got some heavyweight people that you've hired, right? I know you've Nicholas, who's got a machine learning expert, and Evan from, I guess he's from the New York Fed, right? And he's kind of a lot of experience, in terms of, in terms of bigger economic things. So like that would be interesting to see, like what he brings to the table, and also Marco, I guess, from Harvard. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the team and how it's structured and what different people add?
Yeah, so the current team is about 40 people strong. I think given just the public nature of the work, a lot of the focus goes to our research team, which is like Nick, Evan, and Marco. So Nick and I used to live in the same dorm during college. So that's where we met. Okay. So we've been friends for a really long time. And then, so Nick sort of studies the incentive mechanisms in Terra. So looking at things like, if validator incentives were to change in XYZ ways, like what would be the impacts on the overall Terra economy. And then Evan's more of, shall we say, our macro researcher. So he looks at, the state of stablecoins like in the space, and then looks at, how variables that are exogenous to the network, like for example, like how much fiat do you deploy to fund contractions and things like that, can have an overall impact on, the stability of the currency. And then what sort of currencies that you should be minting. So like, for example, why we chose to, peg the flagship Terra to the IMF SDR, for instance, as opposed to the USD. So he focuses on things like that. And then I would say that Marco is a little bit more towards like the commercial side of things. So if you have applications that are built on top of the Terra protocol, like what should be the incentive mechanism to drive adoption for these applications as opposed to, fiat-based alternatives. Okay. So I think we have a good distribution amongst the research team. Yeah, so I myself used to work in NLP. So that's like natural language processing at Microsoft for a little bit after college. And then after that, I founded a startup in Wi-Fi mesh networks. So basically the idea there being like you connect like user devices with each other over peer-to-peer Wi-Fi, as opposed to integrating with to connecting to the traditional network backbone. So you can save infrastructure costs by sort of relegating last mile connectivity to peer-to-peer networks. And then my co-founder Daniel Shin, he used to so he's actually the guy that brought e-commerce to Korea. So he co-founded the second largest e-commerce company here with about $4 billion in GMV run rate and used by about 9 million people on a monthly active basis. Yeah, but I think that there's a lot more to the team. But
okay, no, that's great. So you mentioned there about like using the IMF, is it SDRs, right? So special drawing rights, is that right? So that's some, like, I guess it's kind of like the original virtual currency, right? It's kind of like it's a currency that's made up of a basket of international currencies. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the idea. Well, I guess like sort of the technical motivation for picking the SDR is that if you sort of balance out the sort of relative volatility that each of the currencies that we want to mint is defined with respect to one, the SDR, and then second, the USD. The annualized volatility is much lower for the SDR. So for example, if we wanted to work with the Japanese yen version of Terra and the Korean won version of Terra, and then the euro version of Terra, like if you take all of those things on a balance, like annualized volatility is much lower as compared to the SDR as opposed to just the USD, because the United States dollar, even though it's super stable, it does have its own macroeconomic volatility, and then adding a few other currencies to that mix like really dampens the system. And then secondly, from a philosophical angle, like we thought it would be important to have a sort of a stable asset that transcends just a single sovereign asset of any one country. And then the SDR, like philosophically, is designed to be just that, right? So you want to have a reserve currency that sort of transcends the dollar.
Okay, cool, very good. So yeah, so let's kind of dive a bit more then into Terra. Like, so there's Terra, which is a stablecoin that's trying to be pegged to these international currencies, and you've got different variations of Terra, like different, like one for the won, one for the dollar, etc. And then you've got Luna, which is kind of the token that absorbs the fluctuations, right? It's the kind of power behind the scenes that keeps everything stable. So do you want to just kind of talk us through a little bit about the mechanism there?
Yeah, so the mechanism is almost exactly like you just described, right? So basically you can Luna is sort of like the first response buffer to volatility in the price fluctuations of Terra. So for example, when the price of Terra goes down, like the system agrees to accept your Terra for its pegged exchange rate, thereby creating an arbitrage opportunity for everybody who wants to trade it. So basically, like when the price of Terra goes down, there's an incentive to contract the price of Terra by everyday users. And on the opposite side, if the price of Terra goes up, the arbitrage opportunity runs the other way, in which case you have an opportunity to mint more Terra to sort of modulate the price. So I guess like the second response to sort of stabilize Terra's prices. So look, like if you keep using Luna to contract Terra supply, how do you make sure that the mining market for Terra doesn't collapse, right? So what we do is we sort of calibrate transaction fees and reward weights that go to Luna validators, such that the unit value of each Luna becomes more valuable even as it's getting diluted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So so let me see if I can explain this in I guess in a simple way that maybe I understand. So you've got Luna. So the supply of Luna is expanding when demand for Terra is low. Is that correct?
Yes.
So essentially, the miners are getting diluted because they're taking the hit, right?
Yes.
But there's mechanisms then to bring that back into balance over time. So it's just a short-term hit. And then there's a compensation mechanism through fees to make sure during that period of time, the miners are still well rewarded because the fees increase so that it balances out. And then the reverse happens on the other side that the fees come
Right.
down as as the market for Terra is growing, then the fees are coming down. So everything stays in balance, right? Is that right?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. So, and can you talk to me then about how does that boot up at the start? So you start with 1 billion Luna, is that right? And
Yes.
and you start with, like, so when the network goes live next week, you start with 0 Terra, is that right? So you just somebody has to come along, get some Luna, use that Luna to buy Terra, and then the whole game commences, I guess. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so we will start out with a small Genesis distribution for Terra, nothing, too meaningful, but just to get the ball rolling. Okay. So the one thing that I should mention is that 2 weeks after network Genesis for Columbus, which is our mainnet, we launch our payment service on a very large e-commerce company here, and then we'll be integrating with many other partners in the Terra Alliance, like on a monthly cadence. So there will be quite a lot of Terra that's rolling around in the first few months. Right. So okay, that's basically how the network rolls.
Yeah, but but the mechanism is still the same. Somebody's exchanging, somebody's creating Terra. They're minting Terra by paying for them in Luna somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the caveat being that there's some pre-mine.
Okay, there is a pre-mine. Okay.
Yeah.
And okay, I think that's clear enough. So yeah, let's just go there, because you touched on there, right, the go-to-market, right? Because that's really interesting, right? Because of your backgrounds and your backgrounds in e-commerce, you've got this group of e-commerce platforms, in Korea and across Southeast Asia that are signed up to use Terra. Can you talk to me about, like, who they are and what size they are? Like, what kind of volume of transactions are they doing in terms of e-commerce?
Yeah, so basically when we started Terra, the sort of the founding motivation was pretty simple, right? So we took a look at the major innovations in payment and fintech technology that happened over the last 20 years or so. And then it just happened that in each of those cases, they started out with a large alliance that could sort of drive growth for the network in the beginning. So if you look at Visa and MasterCard, for instance, that started out as an alliance of large financial institutions in the US, right? Or like if you look at Alipay, for instance, which transacted about 3.5 trillion USD in 2017, right? So those guys started out by piggybacking off of Alibaba, Taobao, and their user base. And then if you look at PayPal, that started out, as sort of like a payment option on eBay, right? And which is why they got so much traction. So we took a broad survey of different payments and honestly, most types of cryptocurrencies out there in the market, and including stablecoins. And what we found was that there were very few projects that had that sort of initial alliance to bootstrap the network in the beginning, right? That just didn't exist. So what we decided is, like, we want to build an alliance of e-commerce companies across Southeast Asia where, like, sort of the use case of crypto makes a lot of sense. And then we want to create a payment network that could sort of combine all of these e-commerce companies together. So we collected about 15 companies that collectively process $25 billion in transaction volume per year and has 45 million users. So the idea is that from Network Genesis on a monthly cadence, we'll integrate with each of these partners such that it'll be almost the first time where you can see crypto being used across retail users in the figures of tens of millions of people. Yeah.
Excellent. Very exciting. Yeah, no, that is cool, because we currently validate across 3 networks: Cosmos, Loom, and now yourselves, right, as of next week, and we'll talk a little bit about the launch in a second. But yeah, what was interesting from us from the Loom perspective is that the go-to-market was very interesting for us, right? And I think it's the same for you guys. I think that's what we're looking for, is people that are focused on growth and are trying to figure out where is the market here, right? Rather than the kind of build it and they will come approach of, like, I'll build this great platform and of course everybody will use it. So yeah, really interesting that you guys have this kind of such an ambitious and such a, well, actually it looks like it's working, right? It's not just an ambitious plan, like everything's falling into place, and it really seems like things are lined up for adoption, and that's great. So just related to that, because I think that's probably a good time to kind of introduce the other part of the model. So you've got a model that's a stable coin that's all focused on the stability of price, right? So for medium of exchange and for when you're transacting. But the other side of your design is around incentivizing this growth. So do you want to just talk a little bit about, because I guess that's the other side of your go-to-market, is to say, how do you take a pool of money and incentivize people to build apps on your system? How do you get them to, how do you drive adoption? How do you make sure that you get the right people building on your platform? So do you want to tell us a little bit about that mechanism?
Yeah, so I think a lot of projects have some sort of like community reward pools, or so basically like most projects, most public chains allocate a certain proportion of growth that's coming to the network to do things like fund bounty programs, or like fund the foundation that's developing for the platform. So basically there's some sort of like growth mechanism, but it's usually contingent upon the inflation of a currency, fixed inflation of a currency that is quite volatile, right? So the small tweak that we made to that is that we take a certain percentage of network growth, which is not fixed from a monetary policy perspective, but is contingent upon the actual growth of the network. And then we choose to allocate those resources to funding budget programs or systems or DApps that drive the most amount of growth on the network, right? So the governance mechanism here is fairly simple. So we register a series of programs or applications that with our treasury, and then these budget programs like publish their transaction volume results or what they've done over the last month or so, and contingent upon that publication, like validators can vote on who gets more resources and who gets less resources and stuff like that. So it's kind of like similar to a community pool, but with a very singular focus of driving transaction volume and growth for the network.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is really interesting. And then I guess one of the things I mentioned there, like we're like a Chorus One, we're validating on Cosmos. Why did you choose to build this on the Cosmos network? What was interesting about the Cosmos technology for you guys?
Yeah, so it became pretty clear as we were developing the stablecoin that we needed a couple of things. Like number one, given that a lot of general purpose smart contract platforms were and still are like quite early in their design phases, there wasn't enough like customizability for us to be able to build like an actual real world infrastructure on top of it. And then Vitalik talks about like, blockchains aren't for reducing cost, it's about lowering social cost while increasing financial cost. But if the financial cost of actually building real world like payments infrastructure, for instance, is too high, then we just don't want to pay that, right? So it was quite clear from the beginning that we needed our own set of infrastructures and be able to make our own decisions for how the infrastructure was going to move in order to build like a successful service, like, quite early in the days of the blockchain. And then secondly, it was pretty clear that we also needed sovereign security. So, public blockchains are pretty cool. And then they say safety has already been proven. But if your ambition is to build, like a bank or like a financial service that trades like hundreds of billions of dollars per year, then the incentive mechanism there is completely different, right? So if you, right now still Ethereum is quite small compared to, real world banks. So the incentive mechanism there isn't to bring down all the nodes, so to speak, but we needed sovereign security, which Cosmos SDK was able to afford. And we really like their team. So we've been working with several of core devs in Cosmos. We've been quite actively talking to Do Kwon, and the way that they think about the open source community and running public blockchains really just, hands down coincided with our own vision. So that's why we decided to move forward. Okay,
excellent. And what about the interoperability side? Are you guys relying on IBC going live, or is that part of your plan then? Like, or how would you see this kind of being integrated into the rest of the crypto world, or is that further out in your own roadmap?
Yeah, so we're quite excited about IBC. To the best of my understanding, it's still in shall we say, middle of the spec phase. So we really want to be involved in that conversation and be able to decide or contribute to where IBC is going to be moving. And then based on that, I think we'd be more than happy to explore connecting the IBC.
Okay, cool. So one final question. So launch is happening next week. Very exciting. I guess you're nervous. There's a lot going on. I know there's a lot of things that need to fall into place. Can you just talk to us, like, for our own kind of validator community and people who are watching, can you just talk us through quickly what the steps will be over the next few days and as the network goes live, and then what we should look out for in the coming weeks once the network is live?
Yeah, so 90 minutes ago, we started an adversarial launch show. So our sort of more or less final set of validators have spun up into the Columbus Show network. And then we're doing things like, doing Oracle attacks to see how that sort of thwarts Terra's incentive mechanism. And then we're just, planting booby traps here and there, and then finishing the final steps of the adversarial testnet. So what's going to happen on Tuesday is on April 23rd, 11 p.m., the Columbus mainnet is going to go live. And then the steps that we'll follow will be like pretty much the same as what we follow for the drill, minus the adversarial attacks part. And then after that, we're going to be launching on a major e-commerce platform, two weeks from that. And then it's going to be exciting.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll tell you what, it sounds like you've an adversarial testnet to go and run. So I think we'll leave it there. We hope to talk to you again in the near future and find out more, and we can go into more details. But thanks a million for your time. Really great to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Good luck with the launch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.